Okay, let's start. Our next speaker is Shira Abel. She is a VP of marketing for a company called Musketeer, and their app enables people to find help when and where they need it. Shira has experience speaking worldwide at conferences on marketing for startups, judging competitions. Would you like to be our judge for our
Would love to.
our pitch competition next Friday?
Yeah, sure.
Not this Friday, but on the 14th.
Okay. Let me make sure that I'm here, but yeah. If I'm here,
Let's check the
definitely.
schedule, and
Okay.
we'd love to have you.
Cool.
And also teaching marketing for startups and mentoring at several startup accelerators. Which one?
So I mentored in the Google Accelerator in Tel Aviv, the Microsoft Accelerator, Founder Institute. I was flown to Trento to mentor in the Trento Accelerator for a week. Um, I've mentored all over the place, like literally all over the place.
Now that we finally found you, will you please join our accelerator?
We can talk about that after.
So,
Okay.
with no further ado,
Okay, great.
yours.
Okay. I like talking with people instead of at them. So here's a couple things. If I'm talking too fast, raise your hand, tell me to slow down. If you have a question about any of this, raise your hand, interrupt me. I'm used to giving this talk in Israel. It takes 30 seconds for them to give me my first question. Okay? There's nothing you can't throw at me that Israelis haven't already. So, there you go. All right, let's get started. This for B2B. If you have a B2C, interrupt me, ask questions. I tailored this one specifically for B2B because I understood this was a B2B audience. Okay? Does anybody here have a B2C? All B2B. Okay, good. B2G, that's very similar to B2B. So I can give you specific things while we're going through. Okay, that's me. This is the company I work for. That doesn't look good. Okay, so looks like the formatting is going to be a little different than it should be. Oh yeah, no, formatting is definitely going to be off. So I can't even imagine what it's going to look like for the rest of the deck. So apologizing now. So let's get going. So what you're looking for is you're looking for an unfair advantage. Okay, you're looking to figure out how you can become a monopoly in your arena. Now you can't, I mean, in Europe and in the US, there's issues with being a monopoly. But at the end of the day, Google is more or less, they own the search market. Facebook owns the friendship social market, okay? And different platforms own different areas. So what you're looking for is that competitive advantage that can't be bought or copied. What do you have that's going to be different? All of this, by the way, will be on SlideShare, as I mentioned earlier. Okay, so we're going to start with the concept and the alpha. When do you start with marketing? Marketing has started the concept. That's so distracting. It is. Would you mind? I'm so sorry. Okay, marketing should start the moment the product is conceptualized. Now, what does that mean? That means you're thinking about your product and you're trying to figure out what you're going to be doing. Well, while you're doing that, you have to think of who's going to buy your product. All right, that's your market. So who's your market? What do you expect their behaviors to be? Why are they going to buy your product over somebody else's? And you have to think about that while you're creating your product line and also all of the features of your product and how are they going to end up sharing this with somebody else, all of that. So you have to think about from the second you start thinking about your product. You don't make a product because you've got a really cool technology. You make a product because that really cool technology is going to help somebody do something. Otherwise, you have nobody to sell it to. I've worked for quite a few companies over the years, especially the early days in Israel, when everybody basically because they had a really cool technology and they had absolutely no idea what the technology was going to do or who it was for. And the companies died because without having somebody for it, Yes, I will talk slower. Shockingly, the companies died because when you only have a technology and you don't have a customer, you don't have sales. So that's why you think about marketing from the second you think about your product. What do you end up doing during the concept phase of marketing? How can you start to be proactive in building your market? So there's different things that you can be doing. You have to think about what your visual branding is going to be, what your message is going to be. That ends up changing how you build your product. Okay? You're going to get to influencers. Now, I don't know how much this is true for Kazakhstan. This depends on who your market is. Twitter's obviously not available in China, neither is Facebook. On the other hand, you've got it in Russia. And depending on who you're aiming for market-wise, and you could, I mean, is a lot like Israel in that no, not a lot of people speak your language, not a huge market at home. Israelis go straight to the US. They don't look at anywhere else. They just go straight to here. So realize that you have options just because you're somewhere far away and you don't speak, and no, not a lot of people speak your language. Israel's in the exact same position. So what do? They don't stay there. They just come straight here, and this is the market they think about from day one. So you've got options. You could be thinking you're also not that far from Germany. You could think about German speaking base as your first language, and then you come over to the U.S. You could do a test market for Russia. You're actually in a great position that you're close to a lot of different large markets, and all of these markets are feasible. So it doesn't have to be business to government. It is, if it is, that's fine, but that's a different sale. You have alternatives and you can pivot and look in different directions. So don't narrow yourself down to the idea that you have to be doing one thing or that you have to go after one market, because really, honestly, the world is open to you. Okay. If you do decide to go after the US, the best way to do it is to make sure that you get to know influencers on Twitter and you start building up your network in the Bay Area. And, well, depending on what you're doing, if you're going after media, then the best area to build up is New York. If you're going after tech, the best area to build up is your network in San Francisco, Bay Area. Okay? Okay. So here's another thing. You're going to have a brand, the customer, and you think about, okay, who owns your brand? And that's another thing you have to think about from the second you start your product. You don't own your name, you don't own anything. You've got your company, but your reputation, what people think of you and your brand is actually owned by somebody else. Okay? So that's something to think about from the second you start conceptualizing the product and you launch and you've got your alpha. Now, how do you end up testing your idea? By the way, if all of this is just really basic for you, let me know. I'll keep going and get into the deeper stuff. So I'm going to pass by this really quick. You end up testing your idea. Maybe what you're doing isn't totally going as far as you'd like. You want to pivot. You want to test your pivot. So there's different ways to be able to do that. You could do ads to landing pages, and you could test, and you could take people all the way through the product until they buy. Okay, so say you're going after something for business to say small home business. Okay, so then you do ads to landing pages. You see if people buy, and you could take them all the way through. Spaces.pe. Okay, this is a great service where and this is going to be on SlideShare. You could look at it later. But you can check and A/B test their willingness to buy, but also the price elasticity and how much they're willing to pay for your product. So you could do a whole bunch of different A/B testing on pricing alone here. This is awesome. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just a service. So it's, you put up the website, you put your website up there. It's like, have you heard of Unbounce? Okay, so Unbounce is another service like there, but it's not for pricing. So it's just A/B testing of a. So yeah, this could be for worldwide. I don't know what they support multiple languages. You could check that, but I'm pretty sure they do. It wouldn't make any sense that they wouldn't. Okay. Then if you've got a mobile app and you do business with an app, okay, instead of testing that. Because the thing about the app ecosystem, you have to have a hard launch. You can't soft launch with the system. Why? Because your first 48 hours that you launch an app, you get extra juice in both systems. And so for every download you get, your first 48 hours, say for the first few hours, each download is equivalent to 8 downloads. then it goes down to 6, then it goes down to 4, then it goes down to 2, then it goes down to 1 within 48 hours. Okay? So you really need to take advantage of that in order to get your rankings up so you could get noticed by the store and then perhaps get featured or whatever. Okay? So this is how you end up getting that noise. So you have to do a hard look. Fortunately, there is a way to be able to get around it. So what do? You can test your idea in mobile by launching in one country, okay? Because you could have it only be in one app store country. So say you choose Norway or someplace like this. You launch there under a different name. You test everything, and you test and iterate and test and iterate until you have product market fit. Do you know what product market? All of you know what product market fit is? Yes? I'm not seeing. Do you How are you doing? You. Oh, okay. Yeah, product market fit is actually when you know a percentage that you need. So if it's a B2C product, it's usually around 40%. To B product, it could be anywhere from 20 to 40%. Repeat customers coming back and using your product, that your churn is low. Okay? Preferably it's 40% and up. And that's product market fit. So you need to know that you've got product market fit, so you've got a viral coefficient of above 1, preferably. That means that if 10 people find out about your product, 11 people are coming back, so that your numbers are constantly going up without you having to put in a lot of effort. Okay? That's when you know that putting marketing into your actually makes sense, because you'll get more out of it. And it also that you've got your all of the have you read the Lean Startup? So I highly recommend you read the Lean Startup. This will give you the basics that you need for the Lean Startup. I'll put it here. I think that's how you spell his last name. It's either I-E or E-I. So where'd I go? Oh, well, went too far. Oh, went way too far. There we go. Eric Ries. I think that's how you spell it. It could be wrong. It could be I-E. One of those. Eric Ries. But look up the Lean Startup. Yeah. So you want to make sure that you have product market fit. When you have product market fit, then it makes sense to put money into marketing. Okay, alpha phase. Alpha phase, you're testing everything. So Dropbox tested all of their messaging for 6 months before launch. Okay? And they knew, yes. Yeah. Keeping the product but changing their business model. Oh gosh. Airbnb started with pretty much the same business model. What Airbnb did that went from failure to success was that Airbnb started to take professional photographs of all of their different. Zipcar. Zipcar turned into Lyft. Okay, so Zipcar was about sharing rides with people, and it still exists. But Lyft, well, do you know what Lyft is? You're telling them what Lyft is? Yeah, that's what I got. Okay, so Lyft is a different business model than Zipcar. They pivoted, and their pivot turned into Lyft. I'm trying. So, of the pivots that I know, the most successful ones, um, the company that was okay, Twitter. Okay, they originally were a completely different service. Twitter was actually something created internally for them to be able to communicate with each other. That's a completely different business model. Think about it. I'll think about it while I'm talking, and I'll come up with something by the end. So out there, it's just right now. Let me think about it. Okay, it started from one direction, ended up in a completely different one. Yeah, we'll get there. I'll get to one by the end of this. Social outreach starts from the media alpha phase. So you've launched. Okay, now you're finally ready to launch. All of those media people, PR. Do any of you know about PR? Who knows about PR? Raise your hand. Yes, public relations. It's making noise. Okay? It's getting mentioned in the press. It's blog posts about your company. It's you guys writing posts, how-to posts, how to do something, and then that posts get posted in, say, the Next Web or TechCrunch with a small byline about how you are the CEO of such and such a company and a founder, and you're doing this. Okay, it's taking advantage of the fact that you come from Kazakhstan, which is a country that hardly anybody knows about here, so they're automatically going to be more interested simply because, oh my God, you're doing a startup from a country that the only thing we know about is Borat. Take that. It's actually an advantage. I know it sounds ridiculous, but it actually is an advantage. So, so use all of that to your advantage and get as much noise as possible all over the place. Why do you want to make the noise? It's going to get you a spike, okay? PR has about a 40% trust rate. It'll get you a spike, your numbers will go up, you'll start to get really, really excited, and then everybody will leave. And you'll go back to crickets. But the point of it is that it starts things off and people know who you are. The other reason why you do it is because investors love it. Whether they admit it or not, investors love it. It's social proof that your company is doing something you're interested in, and that will make it easier for you to get money later. And it will make everything run smoother on that end of it. Plus, it's just nice for you as well. All the hard work that you just put into it, people are recognizing it and recognizing you for it. So that's also part of the reason for it. Okay. On the other hand, anything that you end up doing, you have to make sure that you're doing it for a reason. So there has to be a strategy to everything. Okay? Define your objectives, and you could read this later. Define your objectives. Figure out what your metric is, what the definition of success is. Identify anything that you need, and then get your technology into play. So, an example. You want to improve your financial business metric? Okay. So you would want to reduce the long-term dependence on ads. One way to do that is through content marketing. You create a blog. That blog builds and builds and builds, and all that Google juice ends up coming into your website. And you end up getting more, and you end up losing your dependence on ads. An example of this in a B2B situation is Fujicate. Fujicate is an app that helps people eat healthier. Okay? But their business model is along the lines of agency. So they sell ads inside of the app. It's a B2C with a B2B angle. Their monetization is B2B. At least it was when they first, actually, there you go. There's originally, Fujicate was originally B2C. Or actually, no, wait. Fujicate was originally, sorry, switching it. Fujicate was originally B2B, okay, from the business model. They were doing advertising and sales and trying to make deals with brands. They've switched into a B2C model. I have it completely reversed. They have it switched into a B2C model. Now they're helping people with food and dieting and eating healthier, and they're creating communities, and they charge for that. And they're actually doing a lot better than they were when they were going after the brand model. So there's an example. Marketing strategies for B2B. Industry leader is critical. So how do you end up doing that? So you have blog posts, you go speak at conferences, anything that you do that where you could get a mention as knowing about this better than anybody else. Everybody feels more comfortable buying the company where they think the people in charge know more than anybody else. Okay? So that is one way in order to get yourself out there, and that's the reason why you do it. You connect with the people who are using your product, and you let the end user know about the work. So let's say if you're doing anything, example, Giant Swarm. Giant Swarm is a German company, and they are business. Okay, and eventually, they've just launched. They're in baby stage. And eventually they're going to be doing features of developers and the work that the developers are doing. Any chance you have to promote others is a way for you to grow. A valuable way than for you to just promote yourself, because nobody's interested in you. But when you promote others and you're giving helpful information, that they're interested in. Think about it. When you're going to go and tell somebody, oh my God, this is amazing, they're more likely to listen to you than when you go and say, look at me, I'm amazing. Okay? Say you're amazing, but if you're talking about somebody else, that's more interesting. Marketing strategies for web, again, becoming leader, okay, and then increasing average purchase rate. These are all things you could read later. Same thing for apps. Building an app family is a great way to build things for knowing, and examples of this on the business realm. A bunch of security companies have several different products. So they'll have a product that's, securing the home, and then they'll have one where you can do some, just like different companies have a range of services that they offer. The ones that come off all